I would like to first give a shout out to my patrons who made this and all my future videos possible. And remember, if you would like to support the channel and also get access to updates and previews, including a never released review of Western anime reviews, then spare some change, governor, by following in the links below. Hello everybody, my name is Nick Starwind and welcome once again to another dive into the depths of lost and forgotten media, where not only do we unearth the mysteries of cancelled productions, but bring to life the lost chapters of film and television history. So, as you know, we have two aspects of this series where on the one hand you have the Starwind Zone, which looked into the view of media that was thrown to the wayside without a care, and on the other hand you have the not so Starwind Zone but could be Starwind Zone, which is general reviews of obscure and forgotten productions, making them relevant again by putting them in the spotlight. So far in this section, we have mainly concentrated on Japanese-based productions such as the Animal Crossing OVA and banned episodes of Pokemon, but one particular piece has come up on my radar, and surprisingly, despite its all-round success and influence on contemporary film and television, not to mention being practically a national treasure to its home country, not many people actually know about this film and doesn't get talked about a lot in the world of stop-motion animation. How is this so? I actually have no idea, but if the small group of people watching this have seen the film I'm about to talk about, then, if you are familiar with Star Wars Episode 1 and even Speed Racer, you will definitely see a connection among many other things. Back in 1975, Norwegian film production company Caprino Studios, headed by father and son producers Ivo and Remo Caprino, released what is considered the first full-length animated feature film in Norwegian film history about the eccentric inventor Theodor Rimspoke, or formerly known in this country as Vidar Felgen, and his two companions, Sonny and Lambert, as they set out to build the fastest car in the world for the title of our film, the Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. The Pinchcliffe Grand Prix, or as it is known in Norway as Flåklypa Grand Prix, is a stop-motion animated film using a combination of different techniques involving puppetry and live-action interlacing about the sleepy mountain town of Pinchcliffe, where on the top of a hill, humble bicycle repairman and inventor Vidar Rimspoke finds out his old apprentice, Rudolf Slimy, has stolen one of his engine designs and used it to become a world-famous race car driver. Upon hearing this, him, with the help of his optimistic magpie Sonny and the pessimistic hedgehog Lambert, decide to develop an even better car and enter the Grand Prix and put him in his place. On the way, they cross paths with the wealthy Abdul, who for today's audiences may not be the most accurate depiction of Middle Eastern people, who puts the money forward to build the machine, and the usual hijinks ensue that you would expect from a children's film. This then climaxes to the end of the film with the creation of the El Tempo Gigante, a steampunk monster of a car with more gadgets and exposed tubes and wires than the DeLorean in Back to the Future, as they race in the Pinchcliffe Grand Prix, enduring just as much wackiness as you'd see in the wacky races. Despite the story being focused around Theodor's desire to beat Rudolph and the race, the central characters of the film and the Pinchcliffe series in general are Sonny and Lambert, who are at this point national mascots to the country, similar to the Moomins in Finland, as all branding features them at the forefront and a lot of the antics that take place in the film usually involve those two, while Theodor plays the father figure in the background, being the one who sets them off in the first place. Based on the illustrations by the famous author Kjeld L. Krust, it was originally meant to be a half-hour special, as the Caprino's previous work had been adapting fairy tale stories for television. But, after 2 years of planning, Ivo Caprino decided to boost the production and create a feature-length movie with the help of his son and a team of around 5 people. It wouldn't be until 4 years later and a lot of hard work until its 1975 release, proving to be a massive hit with audiences in Norway and soon becoming the highest grossing animated film in the box office until 1993, with the release of Henry Selick and Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, to which the film was practically forgotten to the Western world, but still being screened in cinemas in Norway, Moscow and even Tokyo until as late as 2003, before retiring to annual airings in Norway on television during the Christmas period. The film is a beautiful piece of animation history, as in order to create the visual effects for the travel sequences, a lot of different techniques and experimentation was used, which for the time was very impressive considering it was the company's first time producing something on this level. One of the things that stood out to me when I first saw the trailer was these sequences where they placed the car in front of this backdrop playing a pre-recorded sequence, similar to King Kong. But also, the wheels on the vehicle are moving as if in normal time while the stop motion animation is taking place, and it is so fluid I am lost for words on how it was done. It looks so realistic and I don't think I've seen it done ever since in stop motion that well. The film uses very basic models that have a limited movement, with interchangeable pieces creating a sort of puppet-like effect, which was common for productions done by Caprino, giving a puppet show effect. Although, compared to productions like Super Marionation, which was string puppets, they use this within a stop-motion perspective, giving more fluid movement and realism, instead of being suspended off the ground, which films like Team America would parody later on. The only issue with this is that it has a limited emotional range, with only eyebrows to do most of the expressions, with the exception of Sunny, who can have his whole head replaced at specific moments, but doesn't deter away from how beautiful it all looks, especially in its set pieces, taking Oculus designs into hand and creating this rustic and run-down handmade feel, showing that these worlds are actually lived in. They wear and fall apart and are not pristine like many other children films depict, giving it a realistic feel, where even in the end, the El Tempo Gigante itself is a Frankenstein car, where everything has just been piled on compared to all the other race cars, which are slimlined and colourful, really giving it that underdog feel. What really puzzles me about this film is the fact that it doesn't get mentioned when concerning animation history, but yet the influence it had on many people is shocking to say the least. At the time of its release, the only stop-motion animated films we really had were one done by Rankin-Bass, which, in my opinion, are complete garbage and don't deserve the hype they get. Despite the fact they use similar animation techniques to Pinchcliffe, but the major difference is that Pinchcliffe is more fluid in its animation and much better attention to detail. Not to mention, when looking over at television, our other examples of animation at the time were shows like The Wombles, which used fabric over armatures, and Meow Mao, which was claymation, but very limited in its approach, creating the morphing effects we wouldn't see from the likes of Aardman until 1977, with the exception of Gumby. Speaking of Aardman though, Theodore's everyman personality and wacky inventive persona has similar parallels to characters such as Wallace from Wallace and Gromit, especially with how the animal characters pick up the slack, similar to Gromit, and that each invention has a sort of haphazard approach to it, where you throw as much on it as possible until it does its job. But in saying that, the influence of Pinchcliffe on Aardman was later returned in the 2018 film Lewis and Luca: Mission to the Moon, where the spaceship shares similar connections to the rocket in A Grand Day Out. Speaking of circle of influence, the ending race sequence of the film has really left its mark on cinema, starting with everyone's favourite debated franchise, Star Wars, where, adding to the list of ever-growing influences that George Lucas used towards creating his universe, in the pod racing scene in Episode 1, many sequences are practically lifted from Pinchcliffe and planted straight into this film. For example, and also, elements from this can also be found in films such as the Wachowskis' adaptation of Speed Racer, where even that film's final race sequence takes many notes from Pinchcliffe, but sadly not being given the outward acknowledgement it truly deserves, whether intentional or not, which is a shame because the film truly deserves the love. Even I didn't know this film existed, and I thought I was pretty knowledgeable on obscure animated films after my research into the Formation series. So how can a film that is so beloved in Norway, so famous to the point it has a real-life replica of the car, as well as influencing the creation of the Koenigsegg CC, which is also famous for this sequence?
Miles an hour, he's lost the back, he's lost it! He's up! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Be so forgotten and pushed to the wayside as soon as it was beaten by an American film. Even with products like Wallace and Gromit, they have its acknowledgement around the world. Heck, Even characters like Dutch creation Alfred J. Quack are more well known, and that was only shown on Living TV in the UK from my memory. So why? Sadly, there really isn't an answer to this. It doesn't seem like any ill intent towards the film or its production company, so maybe it's just one of those films that fell off the face of the earth randomly and no one saw a reason to bring it back except in its original country. But the good news is that with its new sudden international cult following, it's slowly coming back into the limelight. In 2013, the film was remastered and restored to its original 16:9 ratio on Blu-ray with all its original dubs intact, becoming a sought-after item among collectors, including the special edition gift box with figures of Theodore, Sonny and Lambert included, which, if you try and look for it anywhere on the internet, it is as hard as finding a coach.
He said it! He said it!
This wouldn't be the end of the line for our heroes though, as due to the success of the Pinchcliffe Grand Prix, many other films featuring their antics would be released, starting with the 2D animated film Gurren and the Foxtail, released in 1991, which is considered Norway's first full-length cartoon film, focusing around only Sonny and Lambert, looking very similar to the style of early Don Bluth films, before laying dormant until 2013 where the Lewis and Luca trilogy would be released, returning to the stop-motion style with Lewis and Luca and the Snow Machine, leading to 2015 with The Big Cheese Race, and ending in 2018 with Mission to the Moon, in many ways homaging, as I said before, Wallace and Gromit's Grand Day Out. Returning to the Pinchcliffe Grand Prix though, in 2021, the game based on the movie was released on Steam and Nintendo Switch, remastering the original PC game, showing that this film will always be a treasure, even getting an international release with an English dub, which not only has a fun story mode with various minigames, but a full-fledged racing mode with multiplayer, and even uses the remastered clips from the Blu-ray, making it another game for the shelf of remasters done right. If you want to see what that gameplay is like, then feel free to check out the Starwind streams playlist on my channel, as we had the pleasure of playing it on the day of release. The Pinchcliffe Grand Prix is a beautiful piece of animation history and definitely deserves some of your time. Whether you're an animation, racing or film historian fan, it certainly brings something to the table with its beautiful presentation, story, characters and soundtrack. Currently at the date of this video, you can find it on the Apple TV store, which is how I saw it, and even on the Mubi streaming app, which, for those looking for a variety of international and obscure pieces of cinema, this is also worth checking out. Until then, thank you for watching, and I shall leave this review here as a hopeful beacon to animation fans both old and new, and hopefully more love will be thrown in the direction of the Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe, stick it on a badger, attach it to a brick, mail it to a bomb because it likes a surprise, and if you can, spare some change, governor, by donating in the links below, and remember by becoming a patron or donating £5 or more, you get access to the unreleased review of Western anime themes. But until then, I have been Nick Starwind, you have been my audience, and I shall see you next time.